keep talking. It's no big deal.
I was just saying, I found an old volume of Neverwhere by Richard Corbin.
Yeah.
Found a bunch of early Simon Bisley stuff he did with Frank Miller. I forgot the name of it. It's in my
Bisley
closet in there.
Material.
Bisley.
Early Slain. That
I think so. Yeah, it was kind of barbarian-esque.
Yeah, that would be Slain. That's from 2000 AD. That's a great run. Yeah. That was back when everything in 2000 AD was incredible. Sit there, you would actually pick up an issue that would run Strontium Dog and Slain and Judge Dredd, and just every last story in there was incredibly different and incredibly good. Just great material.
Yeah, Nemesis was incredible.
Oh yeah, that's my favorite.
Mind-blowing at times. We see you out there in the hall. Come on in, folks. Come on in. Have a seat in the front. It's time for the ZimmCast. We are starting where we are going to be running at 10 p.m. from now on, just to try to alleviate everybody's podcast congestion.
Yeah, we're the after hours podcast.
Constipation. We'll be the after hours podcast. I am not afraid. Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. Come on in. We've got an intro to run, and then we'll get down to business. Today's episode is entitled "Truth Hurts." Want to talk some truth about the industry. Let's try to get that rolling. And the chat is open, and I think it looks like it's running already. Grant Lankert's in the house already.
What's up, Grant?
How you doing, Grant?
How's it going?
Good to see you around, bud. Let's get this opening underway. Small countdown. Here we go. Let's try not that one. Oh, one of these days. I got such a long list here because I've got all three shows all stacked up here in a row. And let's do this first. Here's a little promo for the ICN. Timeline reaches its Armageddon. What's a kid to do?
I'm not a...
Snag the keys to your mom's experimental ship, of course.
That's not quite how it happened.
Drift aimlessly in the rift between dimensions, trying to figure out how to operate it.
Now hold on a sec.
Pick up a few hitchhikers.
Hi! Hello.
And maybe solve a disturbing mystery that could lead to the destruction of reality itself.
You know, if there's time...
There's always time.
I'm not so sure about that.
Get in on the adventure with the Rift Riders on Indiegogo.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
Nothing like puppets to get the show going right. Here's our warning label. Warning. The following program is rated TVMA DLSV and is intended for mature audiences. Expect adult expletives, adult situations, and video clips of people you might find offensive. The opinions expressed in this podcast are entirely the responsibility of the person speaking or typing and in no way meant to reflect the opinions of the Indie Comics Network. No children, small pets, floppy titties, or Russian bots were harmed bringing this podcast to you. Thank you, and have a nice day. There we go. All the legal stuff out of the way. So come on in, everybody. Nice to see you out there. Thanks for joining us on this late hour. We've moved the show back a little bit. So Indie Comics Network says, hey, Grant.
That's right. That's suitable for prime time, right?
Not suitable for prime time. Sometimes
that's right, damn it. That's why I'm here.
There you go.
Right. Sometimes I wonder if we're suitable at any time, but here we go.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Randy Zimmerman. I've been doing this. I've been doing comics and sequential art for decades. Published a lot, self-published a lot, freelanced a lot, retailed for over a decade. Did my own comics newspaper for over a decade, and did conventions. Are still doing conventions, but got one coming up at the end of April that we'll have to announce as soon as I can make sure the date is secure. And just loving this business, just grew up in comics. Comics kept me sane when I was younger, and I just love doing it. Every aspect of it. That's why I love podcasting. So I'm happy to be part of the Indie Comics Network here and doing the ZimmCast for you on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also joining me today is Mr. Mitch Rogers.
Yep.
Mitch, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Mitch Rogers. I'm a 14-year veteran of the indie comics field from here in South Carolina. Writer, creator, artist, publisher of the Boger horror comic book series and the Flesh and Blood collection. And you can see me Tuesdays with this guy down here on Dispatches from Outside the Box, where we talk nerd stuff.
Nerd stuff.
All sorts of nerd stuff.
All right, there we go. Also, C. Michael Lanning is with us today. C, introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm C. Michael Lanning, graphic translator. I've done work for Arrow Comics and Calico of Shard. Of course, I host Dispatches from Outside the Box, where we scour the corners of geekdom to inspire you to create outside the box. Right here on the Indie Comics Network every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And I show up on different places, apparently. So
You never know where.
There's also Sketchy Saturdays, right?
Yeah,
Sketchy.
that one too.
Sketchy Saturdays. Wacky
It's a little
Wednesdays.
sketchy sometimes.
Yeah. Just point me in the direction and I go.
There you are. Yeah, I like that. I'm like that too. I go wherever I'm invited, just like a vampire.
There you go.
There you go.
Also joining us today in a rare appearance for the ZimmCast, but now he can make it because it's late enough at night. Mr. JD.
Exactly. What's up, everybody? My name is JD Calderon. I'm the writer and creator of the Oswald Chronicles, Tall Tales Online, and various other comics throughout the universe. And Randy, I just got to ask, doesn't it suck where you got to say decades and decades because you can't even do the math because you don't even know how many years ago? I mean,
Oh wow!
Hey, look, that's it sucks for me because I'm like in it for dozens and dozens of years as well, and I'm like, it's like, yeah.
Yeah,
So
when you
hold on,
have
let me
to start
take off
counting
my
on your
shoe.
toes, that's how you know you've been in
Exactly.
it a while.
Yeah.
84, I think it was. So it's not quite 4 decades. So
Yeah.
38 years.
Yeah, 30. You're 84. I am 92. So
84,
8 years.
85. Tales from the Universe 1 came out, but I had a
Yeah.
couple of short stories in Journey and Just Imagine Comics and Stories before that. So
Now is that Journey Bill Measure Lobes?
Yeah.
Ah, nice.
yeah, I showed Bill a story with JB Space from Tales from the Universe, and he laughed at it so hard, and it was just a hilarious horse laugh, almost. I'm like, whoa, he had to print it in the book, and because he liked it so much, I drew up another story for him in really quick about a little boy going under, I think it was his older brother's bed and finding a copy of Journey that was all dusty, and he thought it was a dirty book because he'd heard all this stuff about these dirty magazines. So he took it out and got a hold of his buddy, and they went out in the backyard and read it all about the first issue of Journey about Wolverine McAllister being chased by a bear. And then there's a big noise that scares them off running, and I think it's his brother grabbing the book back, if I remember the story right. It's been a long time, so
Nice.
I'll tell you for sure. But
Got to try to get him on.
Yeah.
I've been wanting. There's a lot of people that I want to get a hold of now that we can do pre-recorded stuff, and because the last couple of weeks, because I've had stuff going on first, second week of October, we did pre-recorded shows, and I think they turned out pretty good. Once everything got coordinated with them, we had a great Comics by Night episode with Rob Marzullo, who wouldn't normally get up that early in the morning, but he was happy to be there and talk. And I'd love to get like Chris Scalf, and there's a lot of people that I've been talking to that are, I got to get podcast equipment one of these days and get up there with you guys. And I really want to start networking. And it seems like so much fun. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Come on, let's get a microphone, get a camera. We'll set you up. That's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, I finally interviewed Doug Rice.
Did you? Good. Yeah. How was
nice
he?
Guy. He was awesome. Awesome.
Cool. What's he doing? What's he doing now? Is he working on anything? He's got to be doing other stuff. Him and his partner, they're trying to get Dynamo Joe put together and put out. But it's rough because they don't have any of the originals. They don't have any chromes. They don't have any copies of the pen and inks. They have nothing. Wow. So, but what he does have is he has, I think, I guess all of his pencils were done on, he did all the layouts and the pencils and that stuff. Mm-hmm. So he was trying to get somebody else to re-ink the whole thing. And I'm like, dude, that's a massive amount of work. And to recolor it, mm-hmm. Because they had another individual dude trying to do it, but he wanted like all the rights to it. What? And I'm like, well, yeah, he wanted all the rights to it. It was just like, they were like, no, that's not doable. But still, it's a massive amount of work. It is. I mean, I'm gonna try to do something where we scan in the one of the comic pages and see what I can do with it in Photoshop. Because I think if nothing else, it could probably be you could probably manipulate it enough and then maybe reletter it. I mean, that's still a decent amount of work, but not like having to re-ink and recolor because that's nuts.
Yeah.
Wonder, Greg Theakston used to have a technique where he could take a comic page and dip it in chemicals and it would drop the color out of it. And he was able to scan it and put it through. He was calling it of course, the Theakston technique, but I don't know what that combination of chemicals was that would be able to do that.
My understanding is that archivists, they can do that sort of thing. I got a friend. He used to work at an archival house, and that's one of the techniques they would use to clean up, old posters or whatever, to make it white. So I could talk to him. You never know, because I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't know who Theakston is, but I'm pretty sure there's someone out there who has a similar technique.
Theakston was teaching art for quite a while. He's passed now, but he used to do Pure Imagination. He used to do a lot of books of Golden Age reprints and books on old Golden Age comic creators. Got a book here of his Lou Fine interview with a bunch of his comics in it that were in public domain. Mm-hmm. And he ended up inking Kirby on the Superpowers miniseries.
Okay. Yeah.
If you remember that.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I saw him critique somebody's work at a show one time, and it was literally a lesson in art to sit there and he took this kid for about 15 minutes. And it was because he was that good. I couldn't even tell you who he was, but he was really good. And Theakston went through and started pointing different things out to him about composition and all of that. He had the skills down. He just needed the techniques,
Yeah.
And I sat there, and my appreciation for him just quadrupled in that 15 minutes because he knew what he was talking about, and he did it succinctly, and he did it the way a good teacher would do it. It wasn't like, is this an ear? You call this an ear? You be detailed in here.
I know what we're talking about.
What kind of artist are you anyway? Yeah. Wasn't like that at all. It was like, no, next time you do this, if you pull your camera back farther and you'll be able to get the mood a little better and on and on. It was really interesting. Like I said, very fascinating stuff.
I'm always thankful for that. Anyone I've showed my portfolio to it's never been cruel. So
very early on,
or gruff, I should say.
When I was in high school, I did a couple of comic shows, and I ran across a guy that I liked a lot and wanted to do work for. He had started doing a little independent comic, and he took my work and just tore it to shreds. To the point of basically, what the hell are you doing here? Is this, you call that a part in the hair? That's not the way that looks, that kind of thing. And it was a real picky point that really ticked me off.
Yeah, and that's it. It's unnecessary at that point. It's just like, look, I mean, it's one thing when you're pointing out stuff that, professionally, like, look, avoid this and avoid that. But it's another thing when just being nitpicky. You can point out, say, look, like, in the future, you may want to avoid this or try this. But, when you're sitting there screaming at somebody over, like, the parting of her hair, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I had a similar situation that you had, but with Archie Goodwin. Back in the day, I was 12, 13 years old. I met him twice. And both times I got to stand next to him as he reviewed a couple of pages for some artists. It was like a master class in like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
How to break down a page. It was just like, wow.
And Archie had an art background as well. He would do cartoon introductions on a lot of the Epic stuff when he was editor there.
Yes.
So he knew what he was talking about, and he was just perfect. Right guy, right time on a lot of that stuff. His Warren material is just amazing.
Yeah.
Everything, just about everything he wrote. I haven't found anything yet by him that I didn't like. So I have great admiration for him and his work. Sat next to him at breakfast one time. That was about as close as I ever got to actually talking to him.
Gotcha.
So,
but he was a very nice man, though.
At a show. Yeah.
Did you spend the whole breakfast like?
No, it's almost like, hey, Archie, how you doing? And he was sitting by himself. We didn't want to bother him, so he sat it because it's first early morning of the con. What the heck you gonna do? Hey, Archie, buddy, how you doing? You getting ready for the show? What's up? That kind of thing.
Right.
Just let him eat his breakfast in peace.
This is true.
Yeah.
There are people just like us, believe it or not.
It's amazing. They wear pants and everything.
Yep.
I'm not wearing any pants. Film at 11.
So I was going to lay out some truths about the industry. We had talked a little bit about priorities last episode with Luke Stone, and Mitch was here, and got a little bit of feedback, not a lot, off of the episode, and thought we'd press that a little bit harder and see what was going on and how the industry has shifted from everybody when I first started in this business. You wanted to work for the big two. You wanted to get up and work on those the IPs by the big corporations, and now it's not really worth your time. In this business to sit here and work on the majority of these IPs have been spoiled or soiled or reworked to the point of non-recognition. The only thing that's there is it's the same S sitting on the chest, whether it's whatever color it is and whoever's wearing the thing, but it just doesn't seem to be the same Superman that was there when I was growing up. AC.
Who's to blame for that? I mean, I don't blame the writers. I don't blame the artists. I blame the editorial.
Yeah.
I just think editorial is garbage these days.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that guide it. They're the ones that allow these stories. If a writer comes to them with a goofy concept, the editor is the one that has the yes or no, the veto on that, right? It's not like the writer just comes in and say, whatever I say goes. It doesn't work that way.
Especially nowadays, because
not Dan Slott.
Well, unless you're Dan Slott,
Then you say this is how it's going to go because the other guys wrote it anyway. So.
It's probably like this is how it's going to go because it should have been turned in by Tuesday and today's Thursday.
Yeah.
So hey, here you go. Deal with it.
I kid. I kid.
We all kid. Kind of. We all saw that Disney documentary.
We did. Yeah.
Come on, Dan. Holy crap, dude.
I mean, what's funny is like it's kind of sad. I mean, he was writing one comic a month. I mean, they could have just called in Cullen Bunn. He's doing about 9 a month. He could have just knocked that out in a couple of days and be like, boom, there you go, kids. I'm done. See ya. Right? And it probably been better than what Dan Slott had done anyway.
Something else we were talking about last week is I've heard that a lot of these writers are now using an AI program. They just type in keywords and key points, and everything types right back out. They go over it with one little additional polish, and there it goes.
No wonder.
God bless him. Yeah, God bless him because it's not going to work for long.
I wouldn't. The thing is, I wouldn't. I've seen how AI writes. So I'm thinking they probably put their prompts in. It gives them a story because they're going to have to come and polish that up because it doesn't write that well.
If you've ever seen the Batman,
But they
script
probably using it for
that
prompts.
that AI did, that was hilarious.
Was it?
Yeah. It was like, in the early days of AI software, they tried to write a Batman script with it. It is fucking hilarious.
What they probably do, I think that's what I imagine is, I need a Batman story that has the Joker. He robs a bank and it fits was it Bechdel test or whatever?
Bechdel test.
Bechdel test, right?
Yeah.
And then it gives them something, and they're like, okay, well, I could work with this. So they don't. So basically, they could just bypass the creative process altogether.
No, the funniest thing I don't know. I read a lot of comics, right? And I found two particular writers that I read. I'm not going to say their names. I don't want to out them, but it was hilarious to see in their books how they goofed on the Bechdel test. Like they openly mocked it in the book, and it was just hilarious, And if I mentioned the two names, you'd recognize exactly what I'm talking about. It's really funny because these are two very high-end, very good, very excellent writers. Well beyond. I mean, I don't know. I've never read anything she ever wrote, so who knows? Maybe she's a great writer. I couldn't tell you. But these two guys are really excellent writers. And I was just like, wow.
But the whole Bechdel test, wasn't that a joke? Like, from what I understand, it was like satire. Like, she put it out.
She won an award. They gave her $500,000 for it. So no, it wasn't a joke.
It wasn't a joke. Golly.
Or
the
the
joke
test.
now?
Or it was, but it's jokes on her.
That's the
She got
test
a
where the measure of a writer is if they can put two women in a room and have them not talk about certain things.
Men, clothes, and something else. I can't remember. There's a whole list of stuff.
Yeah, so basically anything a woman would usually talk about, they can't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
That's a joke, internet.
The views and opinions expressed by Mitch.
Yeah.
we ran that warning at the
and
front
I'm
of
like,
the show.
wait a minute. If the right person's watching it.
Yeah, I just thought it was something about them not discussing, like, I guess, the male lead, if there is one. And just not talking about it, just discussing whatever it is they're discussing. I'm like, okay.
But the problem is what is the only problem with that is if a man is like the discussion, if the discussion itself is about say the main conflict, which happens to be a man or something. There's yes, one of the reasons why I think the concept is heavily flawed.
Yeah, but you can't. What can you say, right? I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, like I said, she got an award for $500,000. So I'm just like, all right, good for you.
It looks like it was two of them.
Anybody can win an award anymore, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's the $500,000.
Look at the Oscar.
That's the $500,000 that really nails it.
Yeah. That really sticks in the craw. Yeah.
Right.
You got $500,000 for that? Come on.
Right. Exactly. So, but
I keep trying to find the list and see what it says.
I'm sorry, Randy. We totally derailed your point. What was the...
I have no point. What do you
something about truth and stuff?
Truth, justice, and the American way. What?
Something
I'm
like
just
that.
changing my Facebook back over to public here because every time we go to start a show, they knock it to private, just me. So I was wondering why there wasn't a lot of people in the chat yet. So, come on in, folks. You see out there, hit that like button, hit that love button, go over to the ICN network and the Indie Comics Network, I should say, and subscribe. We're looking to gain subscribers organically, which means we don't want to pay for you to be there. We want them to be actual people, actual subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
So
what are some of the ugly truths of this business?
What are some of the ugly truths of this business?
Mm-hmm.
Turn that right back on. But the big thing now is the misconception, I think, out there that you have to go out there and you have to work for the big corporations, because it's turning out that those folks that work there for one, aren't there for very long. For two, aren't treated very well while they're there. And for three, really don't make a difference anymore.
Mhm.
You know, when's the last time somebody had an incredibly good run on a book? You remember one?
On a
Well,
I can't.
Donnie Cates, Venom,
To say that. That was, yeah.
right? Al, what's that guy's name? Al something Ewing, the Hulk
Al
run
Ewing?
he had.
Mhm.
Yeah, his Hulk run. Even though he
Okay.
destroyed his partner on that one. What an asshole for doing that. But those are probably the last two, like, I guess, famous. You know, Marvel or DC. Like, I don't really know anything from DC.
I didn't read it, but what about Hickman's run on X-Men? Was that good, or was that?
I never read it.
I never read it.
I read one issue of it. I wasn't very impressed by it.
I tried reading it. Yeah, that's what I tried to read it, and it just didn't catch my attention. And I like Hickman because I used to read what is it, East to West or East of West?
Oh yeah, East to West was good. His Avengers run is very good. Okay. His Fantastic Four run was also very good. You know, so yeah, he's done a lot of good stuff. I mean, and I always look forward to when he's doing his indie stuff, when he's doing his stuff. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm reading something now. It came out of Image. It's a huge book. It's one of my favorites. It's like it's what I like. You know, my favorite term. I wish Rosario was here. My Chihuahua killer, right? The book is just huge, right? So it was hilarious because this particular writer, I'm holding a kind of a bit of a grudge. So I'm reading the book, and the book has beautiful artwork. The artwork is gorgeous, just top notch, beautiful.
Anything you want to name?
No, I don't want to.
Come on!
I don't want to mention any names. I'll tell you after the show. But the book is beautiful, right? But I'm reading it. And I'm saying, okay, this is interesting. This is interesting. I'm like, wait a second, because this dude used to work over at Marvel. I'm like, this reads like some shitty ass fucking plot he had left over from the X-Men. And I'm just like, yeah, it might
probably
be.
was, yeah.
Exactly, because I'm like, what the fuck? But the artwork, I can forgive it because the artwork is incredible. Like, it's A++ stuff.
Yeah.
You know. So, yeah.
He probably got the book got canceled before he could finish it and decided
he finished it.
Oh, did
he? The series was. I mean, this book is.
No, I'm talking about the X-Men. The X-Men run. Then maybe that's what it.
Well, he was unceremoniously shown the door.
There you go.
Yeah,
I was going to say again that usually pairs down to the editor. If the editor figures that the book needs a sea change, they're out. Somebody else is in. So.
Yeah, my understanding is that he had a beef with a couple other writers, and the other writers won, and he didn't.
That seems to be happening a lot now.
Yeah.
Politically pushed out.
Yeah.
Said the wrong thing. Had to get canceled.
I don't know. I think what it is with this particular group of writers, he's actually a very good writer, right? But he came head to head with another very popular writer who was also at one time very good, and that particular writer who ended up over at DC screwing up a bunch of stuff. So you might understand who I'm talking about.
Oh, suddenly we know who you're talking about.
You might.
Yeah, it narrows it down.
Yeah,
doesn't narrow it down. Pretty much pins the tail on the donkey. Yeah.
So you know, but that guy he got booted out of DC not too long ago too.
So just politely show him the door.
Yeah.
You know that contract we had with you? Well, we figured out we don't have to pay you.
Yeah,
something like that.
Just go now.
Yeah. Or they can pay him and just not give him any work for the duration.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen to people.
That's Chris Claremont.
That's Chris Claremont. Yeah, that's true. Hey, listen, at least he was pulling down a check. I mean, I hope he was doing something. He should have been writing a novel at least. You know?
That's what I said. I would definitely use that time to build something. If I'm going to get paid and you're not going to give me anything, I'll build it. Because he probably was, whoever that is, if that's the case, they were under contract. They couldn't do something else until that contract was up. But I sure as heck would be writing or drawing or something.
Yeah. Suddenly you see once Chris gets out from underneath that contract, he's like that other science fiction writer that comes out with this mega 4 book epic
Yeah.
that he couldn't do anything with. Well, he was, I didn't really work. I did this over the weekend. Here we go. Here's a campaign.
And he just recently did another Kickstarter for another 2 million?
Did he?
2.5 million?
Yeah.
But it was Sanderson?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, the guys I'm talking about is a book. Shit, what was the name of the? Now I forgot the name of the book. But it's Opena.
Opina? Jerome?
Jerome Opena. Yeah, he's the artist on that. His stuff is just gorgeous.
Oh,
and
it is. Yeah.
Shit, what is this guy's name? He had a TV show on not too long ago. He wrote for Marvel. But the only reason I'm really pissed off at him is he did a book over at Dark Horse, and it was a very good book. It was like Gigantic or something. That was the name of it. And it was he was writing it. It was great. Then he got a job over at Marvel. He dumped all of his indie stuff, and he concluded that book in one issue, and the ending just sucked. And ever since then, I've been pissed off at him. And so whenever I see his work, I take it with a huge grain of salt, and I'll read it, and I'll be like, okay, And if there's a hole to be poked in it, I'll poke it. So that's why I'm sitting there going, this is like some shitty X-Men script they got left over from Marvel that he didn't pitch.
Yeah, Jerome Opina, man, he is fantastic, and he could switch his style because I think he did Fear Agent for Rick Remender. But
that's what I'm talking about. It's Rick Remender, that motherfucker.
Oh,
and the thing is, I really enjoyed Fear Agent. That was a good book, man. Like I said, I liked a lot of Rick's stuff, but when he did that thing on Gigantic, it just really pissed me off and left me really salty towards him ever since. I'm just like, bro, like, how could you do that? It's just like you gave us 9 issues and then you capped it at 10 and the ending was shitty.
So
he got a deal over Marvel.
You
knew they got kicked out.
You knew
again,
it was
right?
abrupt and done because this guy had got a bigger gig, and I'm like, hey, done.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they lived happily ever after. See ya.
So fuck you guys. All right.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But
in all fairness, though, he does have a hard time ending something. So
oh, really? I didn't know that.
I've read his and I like Rick, don't get me wrong, but I read what was it? He had Black Science, and I followed that thing from the beginning all the way to the end. And it wasn't bad, but it was just anticlimactic, I guess, in a way.
Well, see, I read that one because like he had an ending and then he continued it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I stopped it at the ending. I was like, this is a good spot to end it. And I just stopped reading it. So I felt I got a good ending.
I should have done the same thing. I should have done the same thing. I thought, like an idiot, I followed it all the way to the end.
I stopped, man. I was just like, it's good here.
Well, you get started on a book. And
What's up, Tyler?
Tyler, I personally think this misconception is with an older generation. The younger generation don't even think about making comics for Marvel and DC. They're focusing on creator-owned.
No, he's right. I mean, that's one of the points I wanted to bring up is that the thing is that what's funny is the way we do comics, right? The standard size comic. I don't even think the younger generation are even looking at it like that anymore, right?
No.
I've had a number of people say, what are we doing, right? We're making comics, we're making standard comics, color, black and white, doesn't matter. But we're making standard size comic, trying to sell it through the direct market, right? And it's just follows the line, like, right, what is the key ingredients of insanity, right? You keep doing the same thing over and over again and you expect different results.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but they say there is a book or a type of book that's making it and killing us. It's manga, right? But if we were to, let's say, adapt that format, right? There you go.
Hardback.
Exactly.
Aimed at kids.
Aimed at kids. It doesn't even necessarily have to be aimed at kids, but if we adopted that format, could we sell more books? It's harder to say if we could or couldn't because it's very difficult for us to get into the bookstores, right? We can't get into Barnes and Nobles, as individual creators.
But there is one that lasted years and years that had that small form that wasn't conform to the comic book size, and that was Archie. Archie sat up there on that bookshelf for years and years and years in that digest form.
No. They didn't hit the bookshelf with that size until just recently. They sat in the racks at the grocery counters and caught people as they were checking out.
That's what I'm talking about.
Buy. They would just reach up and plop that down on, especially if they had kids in the cart. Here you go, boom. And the problem with Archie is that it's all teenagers. It wasn't a kids comic per se. And the parents bought it because they knew it was safe, because the parents saw the Saturday morning cartoons that were out. Oh, here's an Archie. This will be safe. Here you go. And then they get home, they open up the book, and Archie's going through some sort of identity angst crisis, and he looks like an actual, human being instead of a cartoon character, like the parents used to know him as. And it's no wonder if the digests aren't selling as well as they used to. I have a really hard time.
I don't even know if they're out there anymore.
They're still there. They're still there.
But that's what I'm saying, though. But it lasted for, even before that nonsense, it lasted for decades.
It kept that company alive. That was the thing that they were doing that made them that in Sonic and Turtles. That sold better than their Archie characters. But that was really smart of them. And it was also a format that they stayed very quiet about and have been very quiet about for decades. They don't want people to know how many they're actually moving through the grocery stores, because like I said, it's keeping them alive. And it's a great market. It's a great outlet for, and why somebody else hasn't tried to work their way into that. There's all sorts of publishers out there doing smaller books of all sorts of different types, except for comics. Because like JD was saying, we're all stuck in that same format, that we got to do a comic that fits in a certain dimension, so it'll fit that bag and fit that board and be able to go into that slab.
Right.
And that's also, and here's another truth, we don't have to do that anymore. We didn't have to do that from the start. The only reason the comic looks like that is because back in the 50s, that's what the presses could cut it down to comfortably, so that they could put it together and sell it for a dime. That's why you've seen the comic shrink over the years in size and in thickness. 32 pages is a good size for them to take a sheet of newsprint and fold it up and saddle stitch it, put a nice cover on it, and stick it out at a low price. Now, in order to do that, with the last guy I did with the pre-presses, that format would be about 1/4 of an inch to maybe 1/2 an inch thinner, just as tall, just a little thinner. Because the presses have changed a little bit in their sizes and the sheet dimensions that they handle. And you can still do that kind of a book. I don't know why Peter Cimetti doesn't jump down to that, because I did those Preserver comics. I just posted that on Facebook. I had those Preserver comics printed. I'm looking for one here. I thought I had one real handy.
Let me ask you a question. When it comes down to doing the original artwork, did you have to adjust much as far as dimensions?
Yeah, a little bit. But then the artwork that I did wasn't standard size either. The artwork that I did was almost Sunday comic page size or Sunday newspaper strip size. Gotcha. It's wider than it is tall, because it fit that signboard. They wanted 2 tiers, maybe up to 8 panels on the page. Whatever they needed in order to get their point across. So sometimes it was one large drawing, sometimes it was 8 to 10 little individual panels. But they stuck it on signs for people to go around the nature preserve and read. And then once they were done with the signs, I took the artwork and squeezed it together into a book.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw the heads.
These books are newsprint. They've got a nice cover stock on it, very much like the old comics from the 70s and 80s. We put them together for an incredibly cheap price.
So
the problem is that you had to buy thousands of them.
Right. Like how many, like for the nature preserve, what are you printing? 10,000?
5,000 at a head. 5, yeah.
Would you be willing to share the price point from the printer?
At the time, and this is about 3 or 4 years pre-COVID, it was about 16 cents a unit.
Wow. 16 cents a unit for 5,000. So what the hell does that work out to? It's 100. That's under $1,000. That
Wow.
for 5,000 books.
It was a little more than that when you go into that, and that was probably for a 16-page book too.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because you had to go in increments of 8 because that's what the what the presses
offset is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to meet, if you can meet their sizes, if you can meet their format, you can get it done per unit cheap. It all depends on how much they have to go through and retrim in order to get to the size that you want it at. And that now is an unusual size.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a few printers around the country that can handle it, and a few other printers that will take the time to trim it to that size. But for the most part, for the modern web presses, the big newsprint rolls web presses like print off the newspapers, that this size here is more ideal to their needs and their cuts. And you can see if you compare that to a regular book, there's about a quarter of an inch right there, that it's just a little shorter than. You can do artwork on that size.
Oh, no, of course,
is, we've talked about this before. The one thing that I've always wanted to do that I thought would be cool to do, let me reach it here. Come here, you. Is this size, this big little book.
Right. Oh yeah. I remember those things. Those things are awesome.
I love those things. They're great. I collect them now. They're very easy to collect because the collectors, the people who remember that size, are passing away. We're all getting old. But these were done on purpose to keep the presses wet, just like comic books started out at. They're black and white interiors with a page of prose on the side. I have to open this up carefully because this is even older than I am. But and the illustrations there are usually a panel from a daily strip there or a Sunday strip that are cut down to size with a little tag underneath it, followed by a page of prose next to it explaining the story.
Yeah, I mean, I was still buying those when I was a kid. So
back then they were 10 cents. Back when I was a kid, they were 79 cents. Nowadays, in order to get the same format out there, the easiest price point that you could do would end up being $20. Because per unit, it'd probably sail out to about $10. Because the presses have moved on.
Yeah.
What we need to do is we're and I said this last ZimmCast, we're the creative people, we're the independent people, we're the alternative people. We should be making it a point to think outside the box, to get away from this format. And there's so many of us that are just stuck there. That's all we want to do. That's all we've done. That's all we'll ever, a lot of these guys, that's all they ever want to do. As long as it fits into the bag, fits into the board, and they're able to slab it at CBC, it's great. But there's a lot of great room for comics out here. There were times that, you look back at the 30s and 40s, comics were everywhere. Comics were wrapped in bubble gum. Comics were in the daily papers that kids just craved. Granted, it was before TV. And like now, we've been outrun by video games and streaming services and all of this. But there's still a viable audience out there willing to pay for this stuff. We just have to figure out how to get it to them. It's a form of entertainment that people can, and have learned to love. That's one of the reasons manga is as popular as it is. And I've said that before, that the kids, Marvel and DC chased off their audience so well that the kids are willing to pick up a manga book and read it in reverse in order to be entertained.
Yeah.
And there's no reason why we shouldn't be matching that creativity.
Well,
that you're seeing in manga right now.
Right. I mean, what I find interesting is that all right, so I'm printing through Fairies and Ents, right? I have Mike Jimmy doing the stuff in Europe for us, right? So I'm looking, and I have some other, and I had a couple other hits down in South America, right, with my work. So now I'm looking at Japan, and I'm like, they have the big publishers like Kodansha, right? And then they have a huge dojin or dojinshi culture, right, with self-publishing, right, similar to what we have here. But I'm looking for like, I haven't seen a middle grade printer or publisher yet, right? Like, who's their dark horse? Who's their source point? Who's their scout comics? You know what I mean? Like who are those guys that are more maybe interested in importing, having some some work that's not done there, right? Like who's printing Hellboy out there, right?
Right.
I mean, it's probably one of the big publishers doing it, but who's doing? Are they interested?
If anybody out there is doing it, if Dark Horse isn't just shipping it straight out there in English.
Right. I have no idea. I mean, it's one of those things that kind of fascinates me because I love seeing how comics are done in other countries.
Amen.
That's why the French market with the bande dessinée, the Korean market with the manhwa, where that's read the same directions that we read, right? It's right to left, or left to right. And I mean,
So why aren't we seeing more manhwa over here?
Oh, there is. There's actually quite a bit over here. It's
a lot of it.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it's you do have some that are they have some in Walmart. They have one or two books in Walmart, but they also a lot of it's webtoons too. That you find that they put on the Korean web. Say, look, right. Tyler just said it right there. Webtoon, yeah,
webtoon, 110%.
Yeah, there's some good stuff on webtoons from Korea too.
Yeah.
So while indie comics creators keep trying to get into comic stores when it's entirely possible to get into places like Barnes and Noble and others if they put their focus and efforts there.
Yeah.
Is it just as easy? I know they have a local section at Barnes and Noble. You could probably place books in.
I
don't know. Right.
I've never tried, so I don't.
People need to
try. I don't have an answer to that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is they have Lightning Source and they have a couple of these other companies that you can get your books into, and they can order your books. So it makes it easy in that sense. But the problem is getting on the shelves. I think Barnes and Noble's already said like they're not shelving anything that's not already a bestseller. You know what I mean? So I mean, to get in there,
that doesn't explain them carrying the Lion Forge books in the store.
They might have you never know. They might have negotiated. I mean, the guys who own Lion Forge, the daddy's a billionaire, so they might be able to get in the room.
Good.
They might be able to get
probably buying them.
Right.
Yeah,
buying them or buying them off, right?
Yeah.
It's like Nickelback. Someone's buying their damn albums.
Wow.
What's the hate for Nickel? I don't know. I have no idea what the fuck they are. But
I'll have to say, listen to them and you understand.
20, 30 years from now, they'll be looked back upon as being geniuses. Anyway.
Right. There you go.
And hopefully a meteor hits me. I don't want to live in those days.
Have you listened to a Nickelback album?
Me all the way? Yes.
Okay.
That's time on.
And you survived?
Well, then you have an informed opinion, and I thank you for that. Yeah, that's it. Me, I haven't, so I can't say.
You don't understand how lucky you are, sir.
I do know how I feel about Boston and Journey, though, and it's probably pretty close to how you feel about Nickelback. So, except Steve Perry can sing, but anyway. So while indie creators get their efforts there, it's just a shift of mindset. Yes, it is, and it needs to be done. As we are.
Yeah. Yes, one thing about the indie market is individually, a lot of us creators have like one outlet that we think is it. Right. And I think most of us or all of us really need to focus on every outlet that we can. Some indie creators I notice, just like you said earlier, only go to the direct market. Some only go to webcomics. Some only try to unsuccessfully go into bookstores. I think, if there's an outlet, try it. And if it works, keep doing it.
Yeah.
I think we really need to know what outlets we can't make it.
Yeah.
We can't be distributing it.
And even still, if you find one, always look for another one too.
Right. And again, we're the creative people. We're the independent, the folks that have especially folks like JD and I who've been doing this for years and years, who've always thought outside the box. We need to go out there and try stuff and see if it works. And yeah, 9/4 of it or 9/10 of it might not make it. 9/4. There we go. 9/10 of it might not make it. 9/4. That was the 90s. But anyway,
9/4 won't either. So
might not, 9/10 of it might not make it, but that 1/10 is going to go out there and it might open up a whole new avenue. Look at what Scholastic has done with the bookstores.
Yeah.
I mean, if they had never picked up Jeff Smith's Bone, they wouldn't be making the money off of graphic novels they're making now. Raina Telgemeier and Dave Pilkey both owe their livelihoods to Jeff Smith.
You just think of all the kids that would have picked up a comic if it wasn't for the Scholastic carrying.
And I've said before, I think right now Dave Pilkey is doing more for the art form than what anybody is that's supposedly in it. This Cat Kid Comic Club book is pretty ingenious, simplistically drawn. He's probably doing 20 pages a day. The biggest task I would think would be in the writing of the book. Maybe going through and having it edited to make sure that there isn't anything, but even then, if you go back and you look at the first Cat Kid Comic Club book, one of the high points of the book is Pilkey teaches all the kids how to draw the poop emoji.
So he's teaching them how to be a Marvel artist.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. There we are. But I've sat and read the first one. My granddaughter loves these books. She loves Dogman too. She just eats it up like it's nothing. And those books are thick too. Granted, it's on a 6-panel grid, and you can pour through a book in an hour, hour and a half, depending upon your reading speed. But it's a real interesting book. And then the comic club's books are broken down into other little individual comics because they read the whole idea is that these kids are at school and they do a comic club where they all make their own comics and they all sit down and share each other's comics. And the whole gist of the first issue is, of course, these kids in school, they're doing comics that are ultra violent. They're doing comics that have talking farts in them, that have poop in it, and everything that you wouldn't consider to be school appropriate. And the teacher goes crazy and goes, "Oh my goodness, you can't do this," until she figures out that this is an outlet for the kids, that it's actually a form of self-expression, and this is what kids feel are funny. Farts are funny. Even Beavis infantile humor is still funny to a lot of grown adults, grown-ass men. Yeah. But yeah, I think Dave Pilkey's doing more for comics right now than what Marvel and DC have done the last 10 years. And he kicks out these books. They make a big deal. There's a big deal that there's a new Dogman book coming out in March. Holy crap. Everybody's all excited about it. You don't see like that in like today's comics.
Yeah.
And again, they made their own format. Scholastic decided what was going to work. It's slightly larger than a paperback book, much larger than your standard paperbacks.
Yeah. What's funny is, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, C. Go to C.
Go. But what's going to keep them there is my question. Is okay. You get your kids, and they're excited about that. But even I was a kid once and excited about something that I'm not anymore. What's the next step outside of that? Is because he obviously has that market cornered. What can we do to keep that audience?
Not necessarily cornered, because there's a lot of people trying to bump into it. I've got a copy of Barb the Berserker, book 1. It's a fantasy book.
Who's that by?
Girl with a sword running around with the abominable snowman. This is by Simon and Schuster.
Simon and Schuster.
Yep.
So the ones that are cornering that are the big name publishers.
This is like a step up from Pilkey's material. Not quite as, it's still rustic. Still looks like somebody in junior high school could have drawn it. And the lettering is large and drawn by hand. I don't even think they're using an Ames lettering guide here. Let me look. No, actually, that's computer generated in here. It's probably Comic Sans.
Jesus.
Comic
No,
Sans.
that's not Comic Sans.
No,
Not Comic
please.
Sans. No.
No.
Anyway,
I know Comic Sans, and that's
you
that's a
don't
lot
personally.
better than Comic
I've
Sans.
taken
That's a
Comic
sin
Sans
to
to
use
dinner.
Comic Sans.
I know. That's why I said it.
Okay. I thought you were serious.
Sin.
Both of those books I bought at Sam's Club for $10 a piece.
Nice.
Sitting out now on their book, on their book table, in multiple copies, and right next to Dogman, right next to Captain Underpants.
The owner of the shop I go to once, a few weeks ago, tried to test, you know exactly how popular Dave Pilkey was. So he has a cardboard like stand, where he puts all the Dave Pilkey books in.
Mhm.
He moved it to another side of the store, and people were wondering where that display went to. The next day.
They were asking about it.
Yeah, because he was just curious to see exactly how popular it was.
What'd you miss it if
people
it
would
was
notice.
gone? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it didn't take him that much. He just, picked up the display, moved it over to the other side of the store, and people noticed it and were wondering where the books were.
Cool.
Nice. Yeah. It goes to show you.
Tyler says it's possible, but it has to be strategically planned. And Barnes and Nobles have been asking publishers for specific types of books because of lack of supply and heavy demand.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar's in the house. Hey, Sugar Chris. Nice to see you around. Blue Teddy.
Sure.
Narrations is around. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Blue Teddy. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for listening. Hit that like button. Hit that love button. Go over and subscribe to the Indie Comics Network.
But and see, that's another thing is what kind of books are Barnes and Noble looking for too?
It's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Because to be honest with you, I went to Barnes and Noble, been to a couple of them. The Pilkey books are 2 shelves on the bottom shelf and the kids section all the way in the corner. However, manga, they stripped out their entire video section and plastered manga all over it. It is a
Video and
huge
music
section.
sections, are gone at our Barnes and Nobles, and they're replaced by popular media. But the majority of that, 3/4 of that, is manga book.
Yeah.
Well, but at the front of that,
shelves.
but at the front of that store, on a display, is a printed version of the webtoon something with Greek. I can't remember what it's called, but so the question is, what is Barnes and Noble looking for?
Right.
We can't look at Walmart and Sam's and say that's what Barnes and Noble's looking for. That's what Sam's and Walmart are looking for because that's what sells.
Mm-hmm.
But for Barnes and Noble, I guess they want something. They might want something more or different. They might be.
Laura Olympus.
I highly
name. Thank you, Tyler.
Laura Olympus. Yeah.
Yep.
I highly doubt. I highly doubt they want different. They're never going to tell you different.
Quite frankly, they just want money. They just want stuff that the kids are going to buy.
Yeah, they just want whatever's going to sell, and they're just going to want you to like. The easiest way to explain it to them, it's like this: the thing that sells, whatever that thing is.
Right?
That widget covered in chocolate. That's it. There you go.
Yeah. They've been carrying pop vinyls for I don't know how long, thinking they're going to sell.
Yeah.
The local one here is like multiple bookshelves, not just the shelves, but the whole bookshelves have been replaced by pop vinyls.
And they've got a lot of merchandising for the manga books under cases, in locked cases, backpacks and toys, tchotchkes, and that stuff, so the kids don't walk out of the store with them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we have a big one over here on 14th Street in downtown Manhattan, and they have half a floor is basically a toy store.
Yeah,
because it's like the building's like 5 stories, and half of one of the floors is, one half is magazines and a coffee shop, and the other half is a toy store. Pretty much, and that's all in that Barnes and Nobles, and it's just like okay. And it's filled with pops, but they also have a lot of RPGs too, or at least the one the one we have over here. Yeah.
Tyler says Barnes Noble is wanting manga and manhwa heavily. My company gets emails every day for those two.
Yeah, I believe it.
Blue Teddy says, "Yep. Laura Olympics is huge right now." Yeah, it's an very accessible mythological that strip, female lead, if I remember. Girls in my office are even talking about it, and I'm not used to hearing non-manga titles get talked about offline. LOL. She did that book. She did that strip on Webtoons for years, didn't she?
Oh yeah, yeah. But and one of the main thing about it is
10 years.
It's a gorgeous book.
It is. It's very pretty,
and the way it's put together is very enticing.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're a bibliophile, it's very hard to pick that book up and put it back down.
It is. Yeah, it's a very I had to do the same thing. It's a very nice product.
Yeah. It's like, I could read this online for free.
John talks 2 to 3 years. I think she's got more material on there than that, doesn't she, Tyler? I think she's been around a little longer than that. Could be wrong.
Well,
I think it was. I think I saw it 2 or 3 years ago, but my sense of time is gone anyway since I've been asleep.
She could be doing other stuff and then start that book 2 or 3 years ago.
She began publishing it on Webtoon March 2018.
There you go.
Yeah, she's a New Zealand artist at that. Rachel
I've seen this book.
Yeah.
Places.
Yeah, and it also is in Walmart for that matter.
It's getting all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a real accessible strip. I mean, anybody reading it would get into it.
Which is kind of amazing if you think about the fact that she was putting this up and she wasn't getting paid for it.
Yeah.
And it's free and you can go read it, but people are actually buying this book. Which I hope is a resurgence of physical media, of the love of physical media.
To an extent, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think they've already proven that, given I'm older, I prefer physical media, right?
Right.
But I think even as people grow old, as we all get older, our eyes get worse, and you're gonna want to read a physical book as opposed to reading it on a screen. Especially once you can afford it. And that's the other thing is affordability, right? You can read it for free, fine. Years later, you can afford it. All right, let's buy it. Boom, then you read it as a book.
Right.
But on the plus side of that, on the right screen, you can always go in and enlarge it.
True.
But I have a 17-year-old who's supposed to be geared to just reading computer screens and everything like that. That's the age she grew up in, and she much rather would have a physical book than reading it on a screen.
Because we're all greedy and we like to own stuff.
That's right. There you go.
Well, if you're a fan of something, most of the time you want like a physical copy to put on the shelf, whatever it is, book, figurines, movies, whatever. You want a physical copy, just to say, hey, look at this. This is.
I think, and that's why I think Pops got so big, is because Pops were hitting those licenses that weren't. They didn't have their own merchandising for a long time, and so they just merchandise anything. They pop anything, and that's how come they were getting picked up.
They're small, cute toys that look great on a shelf.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you instance before they merchandised Cowboy Bebop this last time. It was years you didn't have anything Cowboy Bebop, and the first thing that came out were the Pops, and so everybody went and bought that because you didn't have a statue or a toy or clothing or anything like that. They didn't merchandise it until after the Pops, and then they merchandised.
Okay,
but
and I won't lie, I have a few Pops. I just but mainly it's properties I like.
Oh yeah. Well, I have some that are cut like $300 or $400. So
I don't think I've ever bought one, but I've had a lot of them given to me as gifts, especially around Christmas time. People that wanted to buy me something and didn't know what I'd like. So
get a local.
I didn't pay mind you, I didn't pay $300 or $400 for it.
Which really beats a few years before that. It was anything Doctor Who. So I still have the Doctor Who Monopoly game and the TARDIS pizza cutter.
Nice.
The pizza cutter shaped in the sonic screwdriver. But
well, yeah, and that's probably from an age where Doctor Who was
popular. Yes.
Popular. David Tennant or Well, David Tennant and Matt Smith, that was its big height.
Yep.
So those things probably will be worth something. Not that you care, but those will probably be worth something down the line.
If I ever got rid of it, I'd hear it from my kids, probably. It's like, yeah, thank you for it. Honestly, it beats getting the chocolate covered cherries every year. That had turned into a running gag. That was
Wow.
Well, anything's better than fruitcake.
here's your box. Yeah, that's true. And I'd much rather eat chocolate covered
Why
cherries.
does that even exist anymore? It's like
There
a
are
gag
some
thing.
fruit cakes that are delicious. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah, there's still some fruitcakes that have been passed around through families for 50 years.
Yeah. And someone will tell you they're still edible.
They probably
Yeah.
so.
Sugar says never heard of Lore Olympics. I'll have to look it up. My niece is into webtoons, so she might know about it. She probably already does. Sugar.
Yeah.
Ask her about it. It's a
But then
very
that
popular
webtoon's
strip
probably-
over there. It's one of their biggest strips over there.
That's one thing that I noticed about webtoons is the market for that over there is slice of life. Is stuff really is popular. That's what Lore Olympus is. It's on a greater scale.
I wouldn't consider that. That's Greek gods and mythology, isn't it?
It is, but it's using that as a basis, but it's still kind of a romance slice of life type story.
Okay.
So
So it's like slice of life amongst the gods.
I'm in
Yeah,
love with
something
Zeus.
like that.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
I yearn for the days for Apollo to whisk me away in his chariot. That kind of stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. I've read the Apollo stories. Do you really want that? Some people that doesn't end well.
Well, most everybody's idea of mythology too ends at Disney. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. Hey.
Uh-huh.
I was a grown up when Hercules comes out. Thank you very much. So
most people have never, read the original mythology, just like we did at Dispatches from Outside the Box that talked about the Grimm's fairy tales. Hardly anybody's ever sat down and actually read them to see the violent content in that.
Oh, yeah,
they're not Disney stories,
No.
Yeah. I was in, I think, middle school when I read from the school library. I rented a copy of Greek myths and stuff, and I was reading it, and I'm like, "Holy shit, this is in school!" It talks about sex and stuff, all this stuff. This person having sex with his daughter, and like, holy fuck.
Yeah, but at least they didn't have books with graphic, hardcore
True
acts in it,
Yeah.
like Oni got caught selling to kids. So.
Yeah. It's different when it's text, and then when you open the book and there's a
Very
blowjob. Holy.
Yep. That was an instructional manual that honestly didn't need to, get around
that was
to
just
somebody that
pornographic there. If that's the case, we used to call that heavy metal, but
Yeah, but they never had heavy metal in school, though.
Yeah,
Oh,
heavy
no,
metal
no.
was never meant for
I
kids.
mean, I had it when I was in school, but
You
it
never
it
saw a
wasn't-
scholastic
it
version of
wasn't
heavy
from
metal.
school. No.
So I really did like their soft wood book. That was fun. You haven't seen it? Have you seen that the edition they kicked out? Yeah, they did a humor
Yes.
version of heavy metal a year or two back called Soft Wood. It's got an amazing. I don't remember who did the work, but it's one of those books. You see the cover, you see the name, you realize it's from the heavy metal people. You really don't care what's on the interior, but it was good. It was good quality stuff too. It was very on the level of the heavy metal books, but it was more humor, more lighthearted stuff. But it's got a death dealer type knight character riding a fluffy kitty on the cover. It's great.
Awesome. That is
a great
awesome.
cover. Yeah.
That
cover is worth a poster alone. Yeah.
And what was it called? The heavy metal
Soft
what?
wood.
Softwood.
Yeah.
It's called Soft Wood.
Heavy metal, soft wood.
Yeah. And they had an alternate cover that had some dentist in a chair, some robot in a dentist chair with a dentist working on his teeth. But that wasn't nearly as cool as the because this looked like Death Dealer from Frazetta, only it was a knight riding a fluffy kitty. It's cool.
Funny.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
But see, it's that outside the box thinking that we really need to do more of. I don't know why heavy metal never kept soft wood going. They should have.
They kind of went crazy.
Even to
the
try a
last
mini
year.
series. They did a one shot done. Well, now they got taken over by somebody else. Whatnot has taken over
yeah.
heavy metal.
Oh yeah.
the people that had them before Whatnot kind of, I kind of understand they were trying to go for original properties, but they were but they were really pushing it because they made the Tarna story from the movie.
Tarnia, yeah.
That kind of became their quote unquote flagship title that no one was reading.
Because that was the one character that everybody recognized. So the first thing they did, I think, was take her out of that outfit.
Yeah.
Because that was way too sexist.
Well, Heavy Metal thought that was sexist.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we have this freaking idea that spike trolling is actually good marketing. They hated that outfit, and then the heavy metal people came back and said, well, you're all just sexist pigs, leave us alone.
And that worked out well for them.
That Netflix agenda, that Netflix marketing scheme.
But why did they put her on so many covers if they thought everyone was sexist?
Well, they paid all these artists to draw that character. They're going to draw her in that original outfit.
Exactly.
Yeah, because they were trying to have their own IP, because they've basically just been a magazine that published other people's work for decades.
Yeah.
So I mean, from a business standpoint, I can understand that, but they really didn't do it correctly, because they just threw her out there, and then if you didn't like it, oh, you're a sexist pig. Then, oh yeah, we're going to her costume's too revealing and objectifying. We're going to change it. Oh, you don't like that we change it? Well, you're a sexist pig. It's just, the typical, snowball effect happened. And yeah.
I don't really understand how that's supposed to ingratiate me to buy a book. Oh, you're a sexist pig. Okay, so I guess I don't have to buy that book anymore.
Yeah,
right.
Well, if you know anything about the new G4, that's basically what destroyed them.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I read that article today that you posted with that guy, and the
Adam
fact is,
Sessler,
he was so upset that his network was ended, and when people were criticizing, and some of them had legitimate criticisms, and he was just like, "Your mama." Like, really?
He's posted on Twitter before that he wishes that he wants to kill his family members because they're Republican. It's like, how are you not in jail for posting that? That's basically a death threat.
Well, because if you were a Republican and you posted that you wanted to do that to your Democratic relatives, you would be in jail. All of a sudden, you're on red flag laws, and everybody's beating down your door and looking at to see if you've got the anarchist cookbook in your computer, because obviously you're a terrorist.
I mean, I don't know. I just think people are stupid.
There
I'm
you
like,
go.
They are.
I don't even know who that guy is, but just by what
Yeah.
you're telling me, I understand dumb fuck.
Yeah, there
What
you go.
else
That's
is
not
it
the point. Yeah,
He was the face
Exactly.
of G4, the original version when it was on cable. He was great, but then just like the rest of the internet went crazy around 2016.
but see, G4, like for me, I didn't know what G4 was until it came back and they started that whole controversy. But it was like a gamer show or something.
It was a Gamers Network. Yeah,
That was
like
like
all their,
okay.
Yeah, they had. It was basically like ESPN for video games. They had, video games.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, sorry.
To grab an older reference, G4 was to gaming what MTV was to music videos.
Oh,
That's a better analogy, because they did stop the video game stuff near the end. Because it
And-
became
and-
about pop
Once they
culture
decided to
reruns.
change programming, suddenly they weren't making money.
and how
Funny
how
how
did
that
they manage?
works.
How did they manage to fuck that up? Right?
Yeah, right.
Like you had the formula in front of you, you screwed it up.
Yeah.
I
Just
just
like
know they-
MTV, just run square into a brick wall. Everybody wants to see reality shows. Boom, done. All of a sudden there's no music on music television.
Yeah.
And then when they come back, they get people on there that are pissing off the fans and thumbing them up and flipping them off, and you're all
That's what I
sexist
heard
pigs.
happen with the new
Yeah.
resurgence of it.
It
She
was
did
a
that.
month in.
You all suck. Like, wait, and then
Yeah.
now they're closed down before 6 months.
To swing that back to comics,
Oh.
that's what we're seeing now from the big dogs up there with the folks working there. I won't even call them talent, but the folks up there working that are snubbing off all of the fans and going, well, you don't know, we give you what we want. This is what you want because we did it.
And I got to be honest
if you
with
don't
you.
like it, you're just sexist pigs.
Right. And I got to be honest with you, I'm fine with that because I don't need to read any of their garbage.
There you go.
Right. I don't need to read any of that stuff. What I want is I want people to flip over and I want them to see Michael Lanning's book and Mitch's book and Randy's book and my books. Forget Marvel and DC.
That's
They're
it.
done.
But it's getting them to turn around. That's the key that we need to creatively figure out how to do.
Well,
Because
for ourselves, not for them.
They've chased off that audience. They don't care about that. All they care about is the brands and the icons that they can sell the t-shirts with.
Okay, come on.
Other than that, they don't see what's going to happen 10, 15, 20 years down the road when these people that you've trained not to care grow up enough to have disposable income and still not care. They're not going to sell nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Star Wars is currently seeing that problem right now. They can't sell toys to save their life.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they go back and reprint the original run from the 70s and somebody walks in that's our age and goes, yeah, I remember having that as a kid, and they'll buy it for their kids. That's the only toys that they're really selling right now.
Huh? But
you look at Ninja Turtles toys. They're constantly being stocked, constantly being sold because there's people my age, see Michael's age, that grew up with the comics and the TV show, and they have yet to insult their audience.
You still don't. Well, you haven't read IDW's books, but that's a problem. But anyway,
I read The Last Ronin. It was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it was okay.
It's the Turtles equivalent of Dark Knight.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give you that. That's a good.
Last Ronin.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't a big fan?
Nothing matches those Playmate toys anyway. I was past that when those Playmate toys come out, but man, if I had a chance to buy a run of them, I would probably do it. I'd love to have the Usagi Yojimbo figure that they had back then. It's just great.
True. Yeah.
Real sturdy. They made fantastic toys.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of us who own that didn't realize what we had.
Yeah.
With these,
so many of them were broken,
that's exactly why things become collectible too.
True.
It's because they didn't realize what they had, and there's so few of them out there in decent shape. To look at the comic market.
Oh yeah.
I mean the collectible comic, the comics collectors market.
Right.
Had Hart Fisher jump up and boast how proud he was that he was actually listed on Comic Tom for his Jeffrey Dahmer book.
Nice.
Because they listed it as the top 10 for the week. And he's like, yeah, I still got a few left if you want to buy them.
That's because it was they talked about it in the Netflix show from what I hear.
Yeah. So there'll be legalities on that for a couple of years. Tossed around because they never asked him. They never asked his permission to use the book.
Oh no, they
usually don't.
They didn't even ask the victims' families. So.
Yeah. Well, he didn't either when he did it, but he did it. He's doing another one now too that talks about his adventures with the book. He's doing another comic.
Oh, so he's just going to milk that one book into the ground as much.
Why not?
Okay.
Yeah. He already did. Who was it? Jeffrey Dahmer meets Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
He did?
Yeah.
I gotta read that.
He's got copies. He's got copies left.
Should get hard on. I know he'd come on. So.
Oh yeah, you
should have him on
message
for an
him
interview on a ZimmCast. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure that if you know Hart, it's pretty easy to get one. I'm sure.
Well, folks, if you've been running the betting line on Scott Rosema, he didn't make it again for this episode. Christy Shin didn't make it, and Luke dozed off and was too tired to make it. We wish them all the best. We jokingly pick on them and love them for not being on the show. So.
Yeah, and if you're still betting on Scott Rosema, stop it. You're wasting your money.
No actual money is changing hands here. That we know.
The pot's got to be pretty big now, right? So.
Yeah, that would.
Let's say you want to get him on. Tell him the reason I came on is because I knew he wasn't going to be here.
There you go.
He said that last time he was on. He was trying to spoil the pool. I get 10%, right? No. 10% of nothing, still nothing.
I didn't.
Right.
No, I didn't see that in the small print. So no.
Nah.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, there's a lot of truth out there in comics, and the truth hurts, folks. That you got to get past what uh, everybody wants to call me old and set in my ways, and here I'm out there looking at the industry and going, no, all of this has to change. All of this needs to change. The whole mindset needs to change. We need to get away from thinking that you have to work on these IPs for these corporations for low page rates and no recognition, little if any recognition. You might think that you're building up some sort of a rep in the industry, but you're really not. You sell that with quality. Go over to, you think that you're leveling up and from jumping from your campaigns to secondary publisher who's so happy to be distributed by Diamond. Diamond's not the way to go anymore. Told somebody earlier today that I long for the day, I look forward to it, and I know it'll happen before I pass on, that Diamond will be nothing but a footnote in comic history, compared right up there with the Comic Code Authority as far as hurting this industry and crippling
right
this
of
industry.
comics.
The real creativity is with us. The real creativity is with the independent creatives out there that are pushing their product. We need to learn how to market this stuff out into more avenues, into and it doesn't, and it shouldn't honestly be large books. It shouldn't be trade paperbacks. Trade paperbacks are easy to ship in the mail. That should be accessible. There's a time, and there's definitely a market for those kind of books. Don't get me wrong, but I think that we need to have an on-ramp for people to be that accessible, that they just pick us up like those Archie Digest at the grocery store and plop it down on the through the scanner or whatever without even thinking twice. Something that's under $5 that looks great enough for people to and attractive enough for people to want to buy it. And that means we're going to have to do something that fits into those racks. Every time I go to the grocery store, I always look at the Poor Richard's Almanac and those other little publications that look exactly like it. They're charging $6-7 a hit now for a 98-page newsprint book with a little thicker cardboard cover. It's saddle stitch. We put comics in there like the the Bernelli books from Italy, and slightly smaller than that. Somebody should do that. Somebody should try it out and see if it'll succeed. Maybe it won't. Maybe you'll lose money. Maybe you'll be able to talk a company into taking a tax write-off if it doesn't work. But if it does work, there's another avenue that'll make comics as an art form accessible. And that's really what we need to start looking to see. We need to get away from the format. We need to get away, start thinking outside that box that C. Michael has all the time on his show on Tuesday nights, and get past that bag, get past that board. Don't worry about it being slabbed. Worry about it being read.
Right. Yeah.
That is where the audience is. That is where the people that'll come back and keep buying. You can see the slab books. When I was in Bowling Green, Kentucky, there was a guy there. He had a whole display, beautifully done, of slabbed books, all keys. The first Black Widow at 4.3 and all that great stuff. And I'm not saying he shouldn't, and you shouldn't want to own that stuff, because I want to own that stuff. But I also want to have reading copies. I want to have collections. I want to have the biggest retailer. When I would throw my show here in Flint, the biggest comic retailer I had was a guy who had long boxes that had comics in it that were $3 and $4. He had a backdrop display of all of his golden and his silver books, but on that front display was all reading copies. You'd pick up like a Thunder Agents. You'd pick up a Sugar and Spike. You'd find a Roy Rogers comic in there that looked cool, or one of the old Marvel books that you'd never seen before, Avengers cover that you don't ever remember seeing before. $3 or $4 because it was all reading copies.
Yeah.
He made the most money at that show because people want to read comics. They want to read these books. They want to be entertained by this art form. All we need to do is figure out how to supply it to them at a decent, accessible price point with enough marketing to sell enough to the masses to actually make a profit. And right now in this industry, in this business, with the independents, with the crowdfundings that are out there, and people are now starting to crowdfund off of their own sites. So you've had a couple people that have done it and that have done good by it. They've shown the way that it can be done. You just have to nurture the market. You have to figure out how to go after your buyers, your consumers. And there's a number of different ways to do that. There's no one right course on this, but everybody, the people that have found their paths that have worked are making livings. So you need to look at what they're doing. And it doesn't matter what their affiliations are. It might work on their marketing personally, but it might not work for you. Find out where your affiliations are and try to bring in people from the outside. Let's not call them normies anymore. Let's call them consumers. The people with money, with disposable income. We want to get those kids back in and reading our stuff again, as opposed to having to run to Barnes and Noble and find the 20th issue of Fruits Basket or the 50th issue of Fruits Basket or whatever. And we need to have that here. We need to have that kind of creativity here. And it's not going to come from the large corporations. And the way that we're going to make those livings isn't by so-called leveling up or trying to help other publishing companies make their stuff. Unless you're a conglomerate, unless you're totally creator owned, you're never going to have a proper slice of that pie that you're working on. And now more than ever, you can get that slice. You can get that profit from these crowdfunding campaigns. You have to work for it. You have to do the work, but you can make livings. There's livings being made out here. And there's going to be more livings all the time as this market grows and grows. And we hope that you go out there and accept those truths, no matter how hard it hurts. You're not going to be able to write Spider-Man anymore. You're probably not going to be able to draw Spider-Man because you live in America and you have a higher standard of living than somebody in Argentina or somebody in the Philippines or somebody in Brazil does. You're not going to get that job. It's not going to happen. Those times are gone. And you need to accept that and go out and work on your own work, do your own materials, secure your own IPs, and make it happen. Make your own way. And don't think that there's a specific stepping stone that you have to follow, that you have to do a crowdfunder, then you have to get into a larger publisher, then you have to level up into another publisher, and then maybe someday you'll work for Marvel and DC. Look at where the people who have worked for Marvel and DC have ended up.
Is that the truth? Yeah.
Take a look at how these people are treated as soon as they become nostalgic. As soon as there's the style that they did that sold hundreds of thousands of copies are no longer in the mind of the editors at the big dogs, they feel that they're no longer necessary because they've got buddies who want to draw too, or buddies that can use the AI writing equipment. Soon there'll be AI comic drawing software eventually.
Oh, there already is.
And where I remember back when, and JD might remember this too, when Shatter first came out on the stands, I first printed it, and it was the first digitally drawn comic, and people were freaking, oh my God, this is where the industry is going. It's a disaster. Everything's going to look like this from now on, and there won't be any real art out there because it'll be all out of the computer. It didn't. It was just another tool. It turned into another tool. Just like these marketing avenues are just tools. We got to figure out how to use them and how to use them to our advantage and how to make profit. And that doesn't mean you travel the old ways. And here's an old dog telling you it's time to learn new tricks. You need to go out there and find your way. You don't have to be in that format. You don't have to be in that bag. You don't have to be slabbed by CGC. You need to be read. And that's how you're going to stick around in this business, is by finding readers. And how you do that, you might have to figure out on your own, but look at how everybody else is doing it. Digital is dead for the most part. Webtoons is successful, yes. Global Comics, I hope, becomes very successful because it looks like they've got a great platform and it looks like they might be going places. I love the stuff that I've seen up there so far. Who knew Captain Canuck was still coming out? That's one of my favorite Canadian, if not the favorite Canadian book. Richard Cumley is great to me. I'll read anything that he writes. He's a fascinating guy. But Comixology, on the other hand, has screwed themselves. They're dying on the vine, and we all know it. Amazon's having a rough time. These other booksellers are having a rough time, getting out there. But comics will survive, and we need to figure out how to make them last longer and how to make money off of it. That's the key. Whether we have to wrap them in bubble gum or if we need to stick them out in smaller books and cheaper formats, I think we do. But we also need to have the slicker formats as well out there. So, but there needs to be an on-ramp as well as a collector's level. There really does. And it has to be more than manga or manhwa. It has to be. We need to do that. We need to show that creativity. I'm not saying America first. I'm just saying that we need to level up our talents to meet that style of creativity and fun that's out there and provide that to readers from all over the place. Whether it means we figure out how to work with Scholastic or how to hit those markets, I don't know. That's all I'm saying is that we need to find out, because we need to make sure this art form survives if we expect to make a living at it. And that's why we're here. We're here because we love it.
Yeah.
JD knows the people from the 80s that were doing independent books in the 90s and 2000s. We did it for the love of it. We didn't. We knew there wasn't money there, especially when we had to butt our heads with Diamond and their stupid rules. Diamond doesn't have the power that they have anymore. They're a bad emperor with new clothes that makes them naked. They're not going to be around much longer. Every year they get a little bit closer to bankruptcy, and we know that. And then this bug really showed how weak the system is. That system, not comics. Comics boomed during. Comics always boomed during bad economic times, and we're in bad economic times. No matter who you want to believe, all you got to do is go. I went to the grocery store today and was freaking out. I spent $50 on $15 worth of food. We got to figure out how to apply that to comics to make comics accessible. One of the things I love doing with this paper is, it took a while. It took a while for people to realize it was there, but once they realized it was there, we had a couple of incredibly good years where we were almost making a living off of this paper, and we were giving it away for free. We were surviving off of the advertising in the paper.
Nice.
We had people, it took a while to get them hooked, 6 months, a year and a half, probably about closer to a year and a half. When we started hitting those 30s and 40s and on those issue numbers, I had people starting to crave this stuff, and they had never read comics before. And this is just people in my county. If somebody can do this, I was so worried when Wednesday comics come out from DC, because it was almost in the exact same format as this. If you remember Wednesday comics, they sold that through the retailers for $4. And I know how much they paid for it per unit. They were making money. They might not have been making a large amount of money, but anything that they got returned, they could always make more money off of. But no, DC was more interested in doing that coffee table book for $75 than to sell thousands of copies of newspapers at $4. And that's wrong thinking, short-term thinking. And a lot of these large companies, all of these large companies, have to respond to their stockholders every quarter. So they're always thinking short-term, and comics are long-term. Anybody who's worked in the independent and alternative markets know that. And you're seeing that happen in the crowd funds. Look at Brian Paluto. Look at these other guys that are out there making huge livings.
I mean, here's going back to the truth hurts, right? Here's a story that's upsetting, right? Liam Sharp, right? Famous artist, worked at Marvel, DC, Death's Head, that sort of thing. Did Green Lantern not too long ago. He's doing a book called Starhenge, right?
Yeah.
He just said that his numbers are around 8,800 on issue 5.
Yeah.
He said if he goes below 7,000, he's not going to be able to do it, right? Because he's going to be owing money at that point.
Oh my gosh.
The image for doing it.
And just think of a crowdfunding campaign pulled down 7,000.
Right. Now,
Holy
but here's
crap,
the other.
That's a living.
Yeah, well, here's the other thing though. He did a Kickstarter for an art book that he raised $132,000 on 1,300 backers. Right. So he raised $130-something thousand.
Yeah.
On 1,300 backers, and I'm like, why are you even at Image?
Exactly.
You should just be on Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
It's like why be at Image? You're not making any money there. You know?
It's probably that
And
old style of
thing.
thinking, like Zim said.
Well, he
That
thinks
old style of thinking of, I have to go with the publisher to get my book out.
Right,
because it goes in a store. So
Yeah.
That's why he's yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is it would be smarter for him to start it at Kickstarter and then go to Image.
Yeah.
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Starting in this business, dealing with Diamond and having dealt with Diamond, that was the goal back when we first started in 85 or so. And we've said this before, there were 24 solid distributors out there that were moving pretty decent. Sure, some of them were moving only 50 units, but some of them were moving 5,000 units at a time. And that was the goal. I mean, that it would be great to work for Marvel and DC because at that point they were moving hundreds of thousands of units.
Yeah.
But over the years, thanks to this, we got stuck in a mindset of who buys comics and who doesn't. That was mostly perpetuated by Diamond and the outside world, pinning down and stereotyping who reads these books. That market has eroded. That market has gone from 9,000 outlets down to 1,900 outlets. And it's not a goal anymore. It's a faulty goal, and you're not going to make money going in that direction. That way doesn't work anymore. We need to find a new way. It's that simple. That's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, for myself as an indie publisher, Diamond is the end. You know what I mean? The beginning and the middle is Kickstarter, trying to sell it overseas. And then when I've exhausted all of that, okay, now we'll try to get it into Diamond. We'll try to go in that direction.
Diamond should be looked at as a side hustle.
Right. Exactly.
As just an incidental side hustle. We need to figure out where the main sources of income, where we can get those main sources of income to come from, and look at Diamond as incidental. Because those retailers, majority of them, some of these shops are phenomenal and they sell a lot of indie product. Absolutely. But the majority of these retailers have the same mindset that Diamond has, that they still have to sell their male power fantasies or their superhero books, have to look a particular specific way, and nothing else is going to sell for them. And those are the stores that aren't going to be around in 5 to 10 years. You're going to see that 1,900 slowly shrink down to nothing, or that 2,000, I guess it is anymore, slowly shrink down to nothing. And it's been circling the drain ever since Diamond became the monopoly, the monopoly distributor. And we saw it happen back in the 80s. And now, thankfully, after a couple of years, a couple of decades, really, there's ways to get around them. And we need to go there and build those ways up and make livings. Because that's what a lot of us ever wanted to do in this, is do comics, make a living, and die telling stories. None of us. I don't ever plan on retiring. The wife will retire, but from her job, but she works a regular job. I work at a board. I don't plan on retiring. I just plan on making money until I can't hold a pencil anymore, and then when that ends, I'll start writing on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Mitch, tell folks how they can find you.
You can find me at Linktree/Celtic Cross Studios. There you can find my website, online comics, and everything else. And you'll see me this coming Tuesday with this guy down here on Dispatches from Outside the Box. Here on the Indie Comics Network, we're talking about haunted houses.
Haunted houses, fake and real. So the kind you walk through and the kind you run through. So
you have a spooky theme this month.
Oh yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Why it's in October, I don't know.
Who knows?
No, it's just happenstance.
Yeah, it
just came across it that way.
See, tell folks how they can find you.
Of course, like Mitch said, we can find us on Dispatches Tuesdays. But also check out my Linktree at Linktree / Michael Lanning. That has my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, plus my portfolio and all that if you'd like to hire me. And all that. So you can send me a friend request. I might eventually take it. So don't take it personally if I don't do it right away. But
it just means he's ignoring you. It's okay.
That's it. That's
what it is.
That's all it is. But
that's all it is.
JD, tell folks how they can find you.
You can find me under JD Calderon on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, DeviantArt, You can find me on Sunday nights, me doing my own podcast, talking comics on a Sunday night. So this Sunday we'll be talking something about independent comics. So there'll be a bunch of us there. So, come join us, and it should be a wild and crazy time.
Tyler says, what are moves us indie creators can start doing to think differently?
Wow. That's what we're going to discuss Sunday.
Yeah, there we are. Let's address that at another show real soon.
Yes.
Wonder Duck, check mark.
Nice.
Rawhide Kid. I like the cheap toy ads in the classic comics, in the classic books. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like the sea monkey ads.
Back through.
When Brown Dog was a pup.
Yeah, Brown Dog needs to go to bed. He's got work in the morning.
Uh-oh.
Oh, damn.
I was disappointed by the sea monkeys because
Yeah.
the ad, they're always like little alien people having a picnic or something. Then you get them and they're like these little specks of dirt.
Well, they were krill. They were little krill shrimp, and it was fun because I remember I had a bunch of them in a little glass, but I had a fish tank. And I remember I put them in there, and the fish it was just joyous for those fish. They were like
field day. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Suddenly his goldfish grew to twice
Not
its
my
size.
monkeys. Not my monkeys. Don't eat my monkeys.
Yeah.
It's like
Leave
the
my
X-ray.
monkeys alone.
Yep. I thought they would just live in harmony and happiness.
Yeah.
Not so.
Someone was living in harmony and happiness.
Well, the fish were.
The fish were. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very
Nice full
harmonious.
belly.
Practicing a little gluttony.
Uh-huh.
Like Pac-Man. Hey, folks, I've been your host, Randy Zimmerman. You can always reach me at the ZimmCast@gmail.com. We're so happy that you were here. I hope you were entertained. Hope you were thinking. We got you to think about stuff. And remember to go out there and visit that retailer that we talk about and get on the floor and dig through those boxes that are closest to the floor that are covered with dust, because there's a lot of great gold in there that your retailer probably hasn't thought about in quite a while. So there's still good reading at those shops. There's still great reading at those shops. And if you find it, tell people about it. Tell people about the books that you find that you love. You don't have to troll all the time. You don't have to hate. This market is going to get by a lot farther on positivity as opposed to talking down stuff. So that's what we do on Sundays. If you join us Sunday mornings, we talk on Sunday Funnies about those great comics that we used to love. Sure, sometimes it's old farts talking comics or whatever else, however the conversation goes, but we have a good time doing it, and it's the stuff that inspires us, the stuff that makes us keep doing what we love to do. Then on Friday mornings, also at 5 a.m., I do Comics by Night, and that covers the nuts and bolts on the how-to, more of an instructional show with a group of guests. Great group. Glenn Fleming's usually there. Russ Leach is usually there. Charles Santino is usually there. Brian K. Morris is usually there, and we talk about the different aspects of doing sequential art, what you need to do in order to further your art. A couple of weeks back, we had a great show on with Rob Marzullo, who's a video teacher who has his own Skillshare section, and he just finished a 9-week course on how to draw and create your own superhero character that he was talking about over there. And we had a really good talk with Rob a couple of weeks ago. Well worth your time to go dig that up. If you go over on Sunday Funnies, there's a couple of Sunday Funny classic shows, and there'll be more coming here soon, where we talk with folks that you don't normally get to hear from, like the great Trina Robbins or Dan Fogel, who is the underground comics expert. He's literally written the guidebook on underground comics. Had a great interview with him some years back, and it's just a great show all together. And that's over on the Indie Comics Network, archived over there, just like all the rest of these shows. We'll be back next week for another ZimmCast, Wednesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Maybe we'll get a few more folks that can remember to wake up and be here. Where it's Scott Rosema, hello, wherever you are. Maybe someday you'll be back on. Critical Blast said hello. He said, I've had sea monkeys. I slowly killed them all with an eyedropper and a microscope slide. Had to see them having a picnic, didn't you, RJ? Yeah. Anyway, folks, take care. Any last words from anybody?
Buy our
read,
comics.
read more comics.
Buy indie
Especially
comics,
mine.
especially. Yeah. there you
Buy
go.
Indian alternative comics, especially ours.
Yeah.
Go over there
Oh.
and take a look at that Rift Writers campaign over on Indiegogo right now. There's an Arrow tier where you can buy 8 Arrow comics for $50 plus shipping. That includes C. Michael's and mine Calico's, Paragon, my Hero Bot Zero book, Marv's Sin Killer. You can get a whole group of Arrow comic number ones, 8 in all, for only $50. So go over there and take a look. That's the Rift Riders campaign over on Indiegogo. We ran the trailer for it earlier in the show. Mitch, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say a last word. Happy birthday, John Silvestri. It's his birthday today.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Happy
is it
birthday,
John?
John.
Happy
Yeah.
birthday, buddy.
Yes, happy birthday, John.
We need to have you on Friday morning sometime. Maybe give you an interview. So everybody take care. We'll see you soon. And see, we'll go out the way we normally go out on this show. Take care, everybody.
There is a point. Is there a point to all this? Let's find a point. The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride, and we kill those people.
Bye, Jack.
We really shook the pillars of heaven, didn't we, Wayne?
No horse shit, Jack.
No horse shit.